Devils make multiple updates. Goaltending in question for how long? Well, we got a little bit of a better idea out of it now. Implications, let's talk. Welcome, Devil fans. Glad you're here. Definitely want you hitting subscribe, talking all things Devils. Devils in action for their first time in New Jersey in the season home opener against the Florida Panthers. So, with a home opener, there's always going to be news, storylines. Fans are excited, teams excited, first time back in your own building. I think news that probably doesn't have people necessarily excited and feeling great is the Jacob Markstrom news. Jacob Markstrom will miss a couple of weeks due to a lower body injury. Multiple reports on that. Okay, so I think, I know people don't love internet doctors, and I don't like them either. When people start speculating and going, oh, well, you know what? Let's just wait for the facts to come out. Well, I think we kind of all saw this coming at the end of the last game. Whenever a player takes a piece of his equipment and throws it against the ice, and it's clear that it probably got hurt, it's probably not a good sign. It's probably something a little bit more than maybe tweaked something or, dinged something up. That wasn't a good reaction. Sometimes players kind of leave and you don't really know how hurt they are. No, with Jacob Markstrom, you could tell that it was probably a little bit something more than just, home opener, Thursday, we'll be good for it. That's all good. 3 days from now, we're all good. No, it kind of seemed like something a little bit longer. So Jacob Markstrom, obviously, we hope he gets better soon. And he's back with the Devils. Exactly how long? Well, couple of weeks. So for a couple of weeks when you're in New Jersey, you got to have some of a backup plan. Something to go off of where, you're not completely in a position where you're just at, a loss. You don't want to be somewhere where, your goaltending that you've put first-round picks into, made multiple trades, made draft picks. You don't want that to be a situation where it's, something bad in your roster. So the Devils bring up Nico Daws. Now, I've talked about Nico Daws before. I said it going into last offseason. If they sign Jake Allen, they're moving off the Nico Daws experiment. I mean, they drafted him in 2020. He's been a backup at points, struggled at times. This was the year that they needed Nico Daws to be an NHL backup. They needed him. You saw the goaltending market. They're up against the cap. They needed Nico Daws to take that step to be a backup this season. And instead, they went up with Jake Allen at a 5-year, $1.8 million contract. How often do you hear those contracts? So it was very obvious to me that Nico Daws is not the future here. He's not the future. Obviously not rooting against him whatsoever. I hope he finds a way to, be an NHL goaltender, but he's not the future in New Jersey. Now, that being said, it's good to have something in your lineup that you can go and rely back on. You know that Nico Daws has played in the NHL before. You know that last season, smaller sample size, but looked actually good. Last year, for the times that they need to go in and count on him, he looked good. But I think that's where you are with New Jersey. You're not going, okay, we need you as a backup 25, 30 games. No, when there's injuries, when there's situations where we're just going to go with a different goaltender on rest, we need you to go and fill in, and we need you to stop, 28 to 30 shots that night. I mean, that's what they need out of Nico Daws. They need Nico Daws, as an emergency goaltender when you have an injury, to like a Jacob Markstrom or a Jake Allen. That's what you're looking for in Nico Daws. Now, I saw earlier today, and there were a couple reports about Nico Daws starting tonight because he was in the starters net. Well, that's shut down. Okay, Jake Allen is starting for the Devils in the season opener. It's really probably not the greatest idea, calling up a player and as a goaltender and starting him first game in the season opener. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. Now, Jake Allen, I know maybe it seems a little bit more believable because, yes, Nico Daws was in the starters net. Yes, Jake Allen, last game, left. But he left with cramps. Now, obviously, you got to monitor it. And Sheldon Keefe said they're going to monitor it. But that's not, a long-term injury or anything. That's not something where, he has to progress back from. No, just game, didn't go great, maybe a little bit dehydrated, and he had some cramps, but seems good to go. I mean, you look at last game, how that game started. Shots, I believe, at one point were 17-3 and then 18-5. New Jersey had the lead at one point too, which is you want to get those type of games. You want to get those type of games. But Jake Allen going to start for New Jersey in the home opener. Now, going forward, I mean, if I was Sheldon Keefe, I'd run this as every 5 games, Jake Allen gets 4 starts. If you have, Nico Daws and Jake Allen, and you're assuming Markstrom's out for multiple weeks, every 5 games, Jake Allen gets 4 starts. I mean, I don't think I'd even talk about starting Nico Daws till that Toronto game. I'd rather see him play against Minnesota. Obviously, Florida, you're giving that game to Jake Allen. We already know that. Edmonton, I think that's definitely a Jake Allen game. Toronto, I'd rather see Jake Allen too. I'd rather see him against, these top teams. Because as a team that wants to contend, and I think will contend, you need to win those games. I know people look at the schedule at the beginning of this year, they're like, wow, Devils' schedule, really hard in the beginning. A lot of, hard games, tough to win. Well, if you want to contend, and you really think that you're a contender, maybe it's hard for those other teams. Maybe you should be looking at it, well, you know what? These are the teams that we're going to have to beat if we think we're a contender. And the teams that you should beat. I mean, you look at where you are right now. You're against the cap. You've made multiple trades. You've drafted high often in the past. It's time to contend. You shouldn't be looking at this and going, oh, well, you know what? Tough schedule. I'd be happy getting out of here 5-5. Well, if you're going to get out of here 5-5, then you're going to get out of here with 82 points in the season. That doesn't make a ton of sense. You want to win these big games. And now, yes, tough schedule to start, but I don't see the huge deal with it, the problem, or the fact of or thought of going 5-5 and being happy with it. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But obviously, Florida tonight, Jake Allen getting the start. I definitely give Jake Allen the start in Edmonton. Yeah, it only becomes interesting here with Toronto and Minnesota. They're both good teams. They both should be a playoff team, and they're on a back-to-back. So when you're on a back-to-back, maybe a tougher decision to make. Maybe they want to give, Jake Allen, a little bit more rest, get the home game, and then back at it again against San Jose. I mean, that's where you probably want to throw Nico Daws into the equation, but the back-to-back, kind of an unwritten rule where you don't start the same goaltender back-to-back nights. But I do think there are loopholes. I know everyone goes out there and, I've never obviously been an NHL goaltender, but I do think that there are loopholes when, your starter is out and you probably maybe need your backup to go play back-to-back games or your starter to play back-to-back games. So I think that it is potential that they do give Jake Allen both those games, but probably would bet on the side that Nico Daws gets one of those two. That's where I'd assume he makes his first start of the season. And then, obviously, San Jose on Friday, Colorado coming up twice, and then San Jose again going just, we'll look into the next. We'll bring us all the way to the 3-week mark, and then I guess reassess there. Hopefully Jacob Markstrom is back by then or on his way back. But then they have LA, Anaheim, again, back-to-back. I assume at one point in those back-to-backs, if not both back-to-backs, Nico Daws gets some playing time and gives Jake Allen a night off. But starting off, I mean, I'm working Jake Allen. Look, Jake Allen, you signed him to a contract. You think he can be the backup. You know he can be the backup. You know he's been the backup in the past. I'd feel fine going Jake Allen on every 5 games. You play him 4. Play him 4. Get Nico Daws in there every once in a while. And hopefully, this is good for Nico Daws too. I mean, I've said it. I said it in the offseason. If they don't sign Nico Daws, they're done with the Nico Daws experiment. But Nico Daws, I don't think is done with his NHL career or anything. I think Nico Daws is still looking at this as an opportunity to go show teams that, hey, you know what? You should go out and get me. When I go on waivers, go out, try and, bring me in. I mean, this is a good chance for Nico Daws. I'm rooting for Nico Daws. I hope he comes in here. I hope he plays really well, helps the Devils, helps himself, and, maybe does get another NHL shot or opportunity to be a backup. That would be great for Nico Daws. But we will see Jake Allen in the starting net tonight against Florida. And, Florida dealing with some injuries too. They did not have a strong, start in terms of the injury. They just started 3-0, but they're on a 2-game losing streak. They were in action last night, so Devils hopefully can take a little bit of advantage of that. Devils and Florida tonight. Injury news, goaltending, not great, but, gotta take the punches as they come. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think? What kind of start load management would you want to see with Jake Allen and Nico Daws? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys all really soon.